In this video, I'm going to walk you through how I remade Like I Do from Ariana Grande's new album, Petals. We're going to walk through the sound selection, arrangement and compositional techniques, as well as some high-level concepts you can take away and apply to your own music. So without further ado, let's jump in. So let's take a quick listen through and then we'll break it down in more detail. We'll go step by step and cover all the moves and all the concepts and that stuff. And then it breaks and then goes into the beat again. So really simple, like not much going on in terms of the actual core elements themselves. Just got drums, bass, guitar, and then this kind of stack of brassy kind of stabs and that kind of thing. So we'll jump into the drums first. So we've just got a straight up kick. I used decap drums that knock because these are just knocking drums. So why look any further? Then we've got a snare, like a trappy snare, like textural snare, and then we've got like a rim that is doing these like syncopated hits, and then we've got a crash. We've got this other little stutter here. We've just got like a kick stutter that I just separated on the track to like have that little stutter, and it just gives me a little bit more control. Like I just filtered out the tone of it to like tuck it back in the mix so that there's a little bit more contrast between the two bits. What I really want to point out is if we look at the grid here, I am like not on grid at all. Like I went into the drums to study them, and then I looked at like where each of the drum hits was sitting, and I just kind of copied it. Now obviously in a real world scenario it's probably either just going to be played in, or there'll be some algorithm, you know, like with Ableton or other DAWs that have groove tracks. Logic does have that too, so it's just kind of like off grid. But if we look at the hats as well, we're just creating this really imperfect feeling, and the velocity is not 100%. Like it's just the opposite of robotic. So together with these kind of more organic hats, so I'm using vintage dry addictive drums kit here, and then I just put a little bit of sample delay to just widen it out a little bit more. I messed around with the room and the overhead amount and the hi-hat blend here. All we've got is just basically like a hi-hat that opens and closes, and that rhythm together with these off-grid drums just creates more groove overall. And then we introduce the 808. So there's like loads of these really fast stutters. They're kind of throughout the whole album, but they're most prominent in this particular track. We've got an 808. Again, just decap. I was in a decap world here, so I just grabbed an 808 that sounded similar here, and then I clipped it, I hard clipped it so that we've got more headroom, side chained it to the kick so that it ducks. I use Studio Verse. I like this 808 toolkit that is part of the Wave Studio Verse here. Just distortion and EQ, and then I just EQ'd a little bit of mid-range, so I cut out a bit of sub and then boosted a little bit of mid-range, which will help it to just be more audible in phone speakers and that kind of thing. In terms of the composition of the 808, we've got a couple things going on here. So we've got the stutters that I mentioned, and these are not on grid either. I just stuttered them as I could hear it, so I used velocity to make these quieter. And then there's pitch bend automation, which is what gives this real life. When you've got this kind of vibe, like I just love playing around with pitch bends, so they're just bending up. working with all of these MIDI instruments and that kind of thing, it's really our job as producers to make it vibe, man. Just make it have some source and some life and some humanity as well, and that's how we do that. That's really it in terms of the foundation. You know, the drums and the low end is just that, and then we're bringing in some of these offbeat guitars. So if you watched my other video on how to make an Ariana Grande style track in the style of Petals, we covered this in a little bit more detail, but we've basically got these quick guitar strums here. And, you know, dry, they just, you know, they sound fine. And then I printed this from, where did I print it from? This Electric Ruby Deluxe. I've got this playable. So I just played that in, and then I just chopped out these hits to get that feeling. Now, you know, obviously if you play guitar, you can just play it in. And then I just put spring reverb on there, giving it that kind of boingy texture, retro, giving it that timeless feel. And then I added this upright piano from Novella Blackwater. So this is like a super cinematic alternative library. I just liked this upright piano, it felt appropriate, and then I put a bit of spring reverb on this. I'll turn the processing off. It's like super pokey and plucky, very, very bright. And then I pushed it out to the sides a little bit and turned the center down. And it's just a layer with the guitar. It's just adding a little bit more bite to those initial hits. So sometimes when you're layering, we're just thinking about how the whole works together rather than listening to each individual element and then trying to sculpt from there. I made those decisions just based off of how it worked with the guitar. And then finally, let's talk about the stack. Aside from the composition, in terms of the groove of the drums and the 808, which is the foundation, this is what kind of gives you a real stank face. So we've got this stack. And we've just got 3 layers. So we've got a piano, just this addictive, wide, addictive keys piano. We've got this brass, which is a really old Echo Soundworks. Shout out to Echo Soundworks. Old brass stab pack that I've had from the beginning of time. And then we have got these Brahms, which are from Ava Music Group's Instinct. And there's this Evil God Brahm, which is literally my secret sauce for so much dark pop stuff that I do. And then it's all really heavily sidechained to the kick, which gives it that ducking. Then I've put Decapitator on there to give it a bit more edge. And then I've EQ'd some of the lows and then boosted a bit of the mids just to create more separation between the 808 and this. And then a bit of fuzz from Cobra Fuzz by Safari Pedals to just give it a little bit more edge again. So without that stuff, more low end heavy and a little bit cleaner. And this is a little bit more fuzzy. It's got a bit more edge. It has a bit more mid-range, which is going to help it sit into the context of everything else. And that's pretty much it. So we're thinking about maximizing each element. Like, this is what I love about studying the top of production. You know, ILYA is like one of the best freaking producers on the planet, along with, you know, another like top 10 people. We've got real simplicity in terms of the core elements, but everything's maximized. The pitch bends, the stutters, the way things are layered together, the groove, like all of that is so important to getting something that hits and makes you really kind of want to re-listen to it and stank. Like that's exactly what we're going for here. So that about wraps it up for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this helpful, give it a like and a subscribe. And if you'd like to know how to produce a song like Petals, click the video that comes up on screen now. And until next time, create courageously.